Good evening, everyone. I wanted to share this unique story about myself, and I think this is the perfect occasion to do so. Postpartum depression. Those three dreadful words resonated in my mind as I watched from outside of my own body while nursing my firstborn. My inner critic was right there, judging and not comforting me in any way. I was lost, and at times, admittedly, still feel lost, but I'm more accepting of it now. Becoming a new mom as I finished my second year of pediatric residency program was an eye-opening experience. How naive was I to think that I was prepared to take on this new role? I thought that the hours I spent with the kids in the hospital and clinics would pave the way for taking care of my own son with ease. I thought that the rigorous shift work would make sleepless nights doable. At that time, the mentality was, kids, I live them, I breathe them, I got this. But boy, oh boy, not even a doctor could handle what was to come. At work, at least there was designated time to sign out your patients and move on. But in motherhood, there's no sign out. You're on 24/7, especially in the beginning. I vividly recall tears trickling down my cheeks while this beautiful infant literally sucked the life out of me. The piercing cries still give me PTSD. I thought to myself, I gave him life and he took away mine. I should be happy, yet I'm no longer the same. That identity shift crisis was awakening in me, and the attention shift from me to him became an inner competition. It didn't help when people called or visited and their focus was on the baby. But what about me? How does one exist in this in-between, between pouring into what I'm supposed to love, but also what's pulling me away from what I once was or envisioned to be? I kept this inside. I kept it from my husband, my family, my friends for years. I thought it was selfish and was ashamed of these thoughts and guilty of having them. I would cycle between manic and hypomanic cycles in my life until one day where I no longer could hide under a mask. Literally, it was during the pandemic, January of 2022, and I could no longer function when multiple other things in my life were piling on, and I literally broke down. My oldest son at the time was 5.5. My middle son was 3. Our childcare situation fell through. My demanding work schedule, imposter syndrome, COVID, etc. It felt like my brain had a million tabs open and my computer was frozen. I could no longer compensate in that high-functioning anxiety state. At that moment, I reluctantly connected with a life coach shortly after, and she changed my whole perspective on life in general. After working with her for 2 years and continuing to do inner work on myself till this very moment. In fact, the biggest takeaways were to not be afraid to fail, to say no, set boundaries, stop being a people pleaser, and make time for yourself, and learn how to sit with discomfort. I also learned that my inner critic was my younger self, who lacked validation, and I taught myself to stop me in my tracks once that inner critic came out and started telling stories. She's here right now, and she wants to tell me that I absolutely suck at public speaking, but that's okay. I'm going to smile at her and move on. My experience with postpartum depression and self-criticism has empowered me to freely talk about it, and in fact re-energizes me to sit in that discomfort and open up to normalize that identity shift that happens to so many people during major life changes. No one's immune to it. And yes, postpartum depression is a real phenomenon. I've become more empathetic towards mothers and families in general. I've accepted that yes, while I'm a doctor, there's so much I don't know and I'm not perfect, I'm just trying my best. I've accepted that, and you should too. I know that many of you in the audience may not be able to directly relate to this as a parent right now, but the lesson here is that the person you are today is not the same person you're going to be in a year from now or a decade from now, and I want you to not fear that change, but rather accept it with open arms. I also learned that the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of it is to give it away. Well, my kids are my greatest gifts, and that inner competition is no longer there. They say, when life breaks you, it's because you're ready to be put back together differently. Every piece of you that feels shattered is a piece that will find a new place, a new purpose, a new meaning. Your pain is not your fault. but your healing is your responsibility. Trust that the cracks are where the light gets in, and sometimes in our brokenness, we find our greatest wholeness. We find the courage to rebuild, to reimagine, to redefine what it means to be strong. We find the confidence to dampen the voice of the inner critic and rewire our consciousness and beliefs. So here's to thinking that we're not broken, but are breaking through. Thank you for listening.